Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering the Arsenal-Manchester United match. We'll preview Manchester City versus Tottenham. Hansi Flick returning to Bayern. Jurgen Klopp, we'll talk about Jurgen Klopp legacy in Liverpool. And make sure you stick around for later in the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on Jesse Marsch being appointed as the Canada's national team manager. Before we start, I'll ask that you like and follow the show. We got a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read out loud, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So please put your questions at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps it grow. So please, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. I mean, we have to start off with the situation of Arsenal versus Manchester United a couple days ago. Arsenal pulling out a gritty 1-0 win over Manchester United at Old Trafford in a fixture that they historically, looking at it from a historical point of view, have struggled. They have struggled in this game, but what they did in this game was, no matter what happens between City and Tottenham tomorrow, they pushed the title race to the final day, to the final weekend. Which is more than I thought entering this season, honestly. Lisandro Trossard capitalized on a mistake for Manchester United defending, keeping Kai Havertz onside, who played the ball into Trossard, and this allowed them to secure a 1-0 gritty win and put them at the top of the title race just shortly. Obviously, City play Tottenham tomorrow, which we will discuss that later. Arsenal, who won for just the second time at Old Trafford in the past 17 years, or 17 trips to Old Trafford. They've only won, this is only their second win, and now they have 86 points with one game left in a very, very close title race. This puts the position for Arsenal fans to be the biggest Tottenham fans tomorrow. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Trossard ended up scoring in the 20th minute when Havertz played in the ball into him after being left onside by bad defending. Casemiro is the one that kept them on, which is a injury replacement kind of. He's not really supposed to be playing center back, and then he kept them on and allowed Havertz to play in the ball to Trossard. Look, it was a very boring game when you look at it from a perspective. A dull game. Obviously, boring is a bad word to use, but it was a very dull game for most of it, especially when Arsenal got that goal. It was kind of like Arsenal just, allowing everything to be in control. Man United never really threatened Arsenal at all, despite the fact it was at Old Trafford, and it was just Arsenal just comfortably sliding their way to victory. Manchester United had 14 shots, Arsenal had 11, 2 shots on target though for Manchester United for 5 shots on target. Possession, little even, 55% of 55% United to 45%. Arsenal, a very even, balanced game. In terms of the statistics, it just, Manchester United have a lot of questions to ask. Attacking-wise, it was very questionable decision-making and just no lack of cutting edge at all to Manchester United, especially in that second half, being down a goal in Old Trafford, having 80,000 behind you. There was no real energy or desire that the way that they attacked. The decision-making has been was just so awful, and it was just like we never thought Arsenal were really uncomfortable at all. It never felt like Arsenal were on the back foot, despite the fact that they were, despite the fact that United had more shots and more possession. It really just felt comfortable for Arsenal. Very dull, and really, it's a shame that we didn't get a better game because we expected a better game. You have to perform to win every game. People need to realize this, and the United attack did not perform. Mikel Arteta was quoted to call this an emotional win against United. He said, quote unquote, "We know how tough it is. That's why we've only won twice in 21 matches here. We started the game really well. The goal affected us with the things we had to do on the ball. Playing backwards, playing safe. It wasn't progressing our play. We started to give our balls away and it was open, but the way we defended, we didn't give away much at all. The attitude of the whole team, the way Kai was chasing people all the time, the discipline and creating habits were super important. We're very good today. It's a collective thing. We are really happy to win, especially what we did in the second half. That's another step the team has to make to be even more dominant, but it was high stakes today, the same as Spurs. Great credit. You don't have margins for errors. There are big teams that make things difficult against you, and you'll have to win. That's emotional. Today, we wanted to open the door. Last day in front of our people. Our families will be there. Let's create the most beautiful day together." I agree with everything he said. It was an emotional win because of the fact that as Old Trafford, the way, the importance of the win. And I really think the way he credits the team discipline was good because they were very, very disciplined, organized, structured. They never felt the need to overcompensate and bring number forwards to get that second goal. They were very disciplined in the way that they defended first, made sure Man United kept them out of dangerous areas of the pitch, defended very, very well, defended very, very concentrated and focused, because in these kind of moments, it takes one lack of concentration. And that's the thing. Between last year and this year, I think this Arsenal team has most improved. You don't see those daft lack of concentration. And defensively, they've been absolutely phenomenal this season defensively. Gabriel, you can make an argument that in fact, it'll probably be Gabriel, Saliba, and Ben White to reach the Premier League Player of the Year. When you look at the fact they've conceded 28 goals this season, that is the best in the league, and the best by quite a margin. The next closest is City. Is City with 33 goals. So the next is 5 goals. That's quite of a distance. 28 goals in 37 games. That's comfortably less than a goal a game. Arsenal's defense is definitely the reason why they've been able to keep it up to this period. And it just seems so easy for them. They never really had to, I wouldn't say they didn't have to try. I want to come up with a better statement. They didn't really have to leave second gear. They were so solid defensively, and United just couldn't get anything to threaten them whatsoever, attacking wise. Defensively, they gave Arsenal, essentially a goal with the lack of concentration, not getting back up to the back line. Casemiro was not really a center back. That's not really what he's used to, but just a lack of focus there. The way that they gave Arsenal an opportunity to take the lead and then they didn't do anything to threaten. There was no period where you thought United had sustained pressure on Arsenal, and this is a game at Old Trafford. It's just a joke. That game is almost as bad as getting destroyed by the way that they've been destroyed in years past at Old Trafford, Manchester United, by Man City, by Liverpool. It was just so boring, so dull, it's horrible. It's horrible defending. It's a horrible play just in general. And the injuries are part of it. Wayne Rooney, speaking on another network, said he questions whether or not some Manchester United players were injured. Are they even injured? Not are they even injured, but were they able to play? He said, quote, unquote, he said, you need to want to play. I played with injuries. The manager needs to be ruthless and take that opportunity away from you. As long as you haven't got a bad injury, you shouldn't want to play on the football pitch. For me, that doesn't seem that's the case. He's talking about the fact that, they're preparing for the cup final. They're preparing for the Euros. They don't want to pick up a knock. They realize the lack of importance of these games, even though they're, challenging for Europe. And I think that kind of portrayed on the field. When you look at the field, I just saw I don't know if a lack of a desire is harsh, but definitely like a lack of energy. A lack of energy was there all across the pitch. But the main thing for this was Arsenal, them being able to push this title race to the last day. I didn't think they had it in them, but they did. They got the goal early, which kind of helped and make this game dull, in my opinion. The fact that they got the goal early, they didn't really have to press up and push up throughout that second half, and made that game a little bit more boring for them, for us as fans. But it got the job done. It pushed it to the last game. And honestly, at this point in the season, it's not about performance. It's not about this. It's not about that. It's just about getting the results. And Arsenal got the results. And now they can all go into tomorrow knowing they can all watch tomorrow's game, rooting for Tottenham and praying that Tottenham brings them back into potential Premier League champions if they can take care in the last week of the season. So great win for Arsenal, who pushed this Premier League title race into the next week. We're going to take a short break shortly. Then when we come back, we will preview Manchester City's Tottenham game tomorrow.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight.
Before the break, we discussed the Arsenal-Manchester United game. Real quick, before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to remind y'all that we get a number of questions from viewers during the show. So, to ensure that your questions get read on air, please use the tips and donations link found on the GSMCpodcast.net. So yeah, the link is GSMCpodcast.net. Manchester City versus Tottenham coming up tomorrow in a game with interesting storylines, in my opinion, through multiple different ways to look at it. Manchester City, obviously, they need to win this game to keep destiny within their own hands of the Premier League title race. Tottenham, they have an outside chance of reaching the top four. They don't control their own destiny, but they win their last two games and get help by, I believe, Aston Villa take on Crystal Palace. If they could get help from Crystal Palace, maybe that helps push them into the Champions League. But they do need help. They don't control their own destiny, even if they win this game and their next game. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting storylines going all around when it comes to the game, the tactics, all that, and also maybe the motivation for Tottenham not wanting Arsenal to win the league. That will cover all that. But real quick, let's just go strictly on the game. Manchester City entering this game, great form since they got eliminated by Real Madrid in the Champions League. They're on a 5-game win streak, and technically they haven't lost a game since I believe I don't remember when's the last time they've lost a game. Actually, it's been a long time since they lost a game. I'm looking back at this. I believe it's Villa. It might be Villa. I don't think they've lost a game in 2024. I don't think Man City has lost a game in 2024. I'm looking at their fixture list right now. Yeah, I mean, they lost a tie against Real Madrid, but technically they've finished 3-3 first leg and 1-1 second leg. They didn't end up actually losing that game. They lost on penalties. But in terms of within the game, Manchester City has not lost a game in 2024, which is actually phenomenal when you look at it from an Arsenal perspective, who are still in the title race up to this point. But yeah, Manchester City, only 3 losses on the league, haven't lost a single game in 2024. Within the 90 minutes, they lost that tie to Real Madrid, but it went to penalties, and they didn't actually end up losing any of those 2 games. It was 4-4 in aggregate, 3-3 first leg, 1-1 second leg. But then this is a Tottenham team, on the other hand, who are coming in horrible form. Horrible form. They did beat Burnley, knocked them out of the league a few days ago, but they've lost to Liverpool, they lost to Chelsea, they lost to Newcastle, they lost to Arsenal. 4-game losing streak. They ended up beating Burnley. And Tottenham do have a good record. Manchester City has not actually scored a goal at this new Tottenham Stadium. Tottenham is undefeated against Manchester City at this new stadium. Since they've moved into this new stadium, it's going to be a very attacking, open-ended, amazing game to watch, just because of the way Tottenham play, just because of the way Man City play in possession. It's going to be fabulous for me as a neutral, but it could also go very, very wrong for Tottenham, the way that they like to play. I think Manchester City, if they get a goal early, it could be very... But on the other hand, Tottenham, my thing is, will Tottenham's crowd really be in it? Will the atmosphere really be up to it? Because you're looking at it from a Tottenham's fan's perspective. Do you really want to win the game? I can almost assure you, if you go to the average Tottenham, they could care less about the result tomorrow. I think even if they make top 4, if they could prevent Arsenal from winning the league, they will throw away appearance in the Champions League. That's the rivalry, the tense rivalry between Arsenal and Tottenham, one of the biggest rivalries, not in football, but in sports in general. If you ask the fan, I don't think they particularly care what happens tomorrow, even the fact that they're in the top 4 race. Now, if you look at it from a Tottenham's player or manager perspective, obviously they can't tank the game, because when you're a player, when you're playing, that's not what you think about. If you look at it and you're seeing another jersey in front of you, you're not gonna subconsciously think, oh man, Arsenal, they're gonna win the league. Let me let Kevin De Bruyne glide back by me. Oh yeah, let me let Haaland win this header over me. Let's forget about that. That's not gonna happen. But will the crowd be into it? Will the atmosphere be electric? I have my huge doubts on that. Huge doubts on that. Pep Guardiola did come out and say they have to win this game or they will not win the Premier League, which is not an outlandish statement to make, but a little bit, for me, just a little quite irresponsible, because what if you do draw this game? That statement is technically not true. Arsenal can very much draw points. I'm not saying it'll happen. Unlikely, very unlikely, but it can happen. So you don't want to, obviously him saying it doesn't mean anything, but, you don't want to make it seem like a disaster point in the City locker room, in the City, in the atmosphere, if you end up dropping points in this game. Because, Tottenham is a good team, and it's a team that you not have much success with in recent years, especially at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But no, Spurs fan, 99% of Spurs fans do not want to win this game. Let's just get that clear. Ange Postecoglou said Tottenham will go all out to win. He said there's a pretty simple notion to this. There's a game of football tomorrow. night, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think we're going to do as a team or any team on this planet? Are we going to go to try and win? Pastor Gogo said, it's a simple, basic premise. How that makes people feel, I'm not really fussed. I don't really care. I hate to think anybody thinks we will go out there tomorrow night with anything other than trying to measure ourselves against a top team and maybe win a game of football that is consequential. How are we going to become a team that wins things if we don't win the big games, if we shy away from it? I understand rivalry. I was part of one of the biggest ones in the world the last couple of years with Celtics and Rangers. I understand rivalry, but I will never understand if somebody wants their own team to lose. He also added, this is not what sport is about. This is not what I love about the game. What I love more than anything is the competitiveness of it. Challenge yourself. You beat someone to be successful. And he goes on and on and on. Look, I understand the statement he's trying to make, but at the end of the day, you got to understand there's a tense rivalry between Arsenal and Tottenham. And that's also part of the game. That's also part of the competitive spirit. And not wanting to see your rivals win a title that you've never even won, I don't think that's a lack of competitiveness. I just think they understand there's objectives first. Like, you understand, you reaching top 4 is not equivalent to Arsenal winning a title. The joy of you getting top 4 is not gonna it's not gonna be over the fact of the misery of them winning a Premier League. So I don't completely agree with that statement, but I do understand these are football players. They're not gonna go out and lose the game. No way. As far as City point of view, I think a goal early will be very, very key. A goal or early, forcing Tottenham to come and press up even more, to play more aggressive than normally that they do, and then to take advantage by players with the quality you have of De Bruyne, Haaland. I think Haaland will be huge in this game. If Tottenham does go with that ridiculously high line that they employ, with the pace of Haaland running in behind, with guys like De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva being able to play him the balls in, I think he'll have much joy in this game, finding space in behind that Tottenham backline to run. Van der Sar is going to be very, very important in keeping Haaland at bay, especially if Haaland is able to get in behind. His pace and his recovery is going to be very, very, very important for Tottenham if they want any chance of winning this game. If they want any chance of this winning game, Van der Ven and his pace protecting that back line is going to be very, very important. Give me 1 second. And look, a lot of people are thinking this is essentially the title race decider. This is Manchester City's last difficult game. Manchester City, they play West Ham, a West Ham team that's kind of, they're ninth place. It's gonna be David Moyes' send-off game. The game will be at the Etihad. It'll be a tough proposition for West Ham to go in to do something there. So, this is really the decider tomorrow. I think tomorrow decides who's going to win the title race, the Premier League title. And for me, I'm going to say Manchester City take care of it and take care of West Ham and still win the title, despite Arsenal pushing it back to the last day. We're going to take a short break here shortly. When we come back, we'll discuss about the Hansi Flick rumors of going back to Bayern.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
I accidentally put the two-person overlay there. Bayern coaching search, managerial search took a bunch of turns. First it looked like Ralf Rangnick declining the job, wanting to stay at Austria, and then apparently they tried to buy out Oliver Glasner, the Austrian manager for Crystal Palace, who's done a good job for them, taking over for them. And he's also turned down that opportunity. So next person on the list now is Hansi Flick, who now is reportedly in negotiations, offered to Bayern Reunion. And if we look at this from a Bayern perspective, he is the last manager that's had legit success at Bayern, winning all the Bundesligas while he was there, winning the Champions League. He did leave for Bayern to that German national team spot where he didn't have the best of results, getting eliminated in the group stages of the World Cup and having a few poor runs in the not qualifiers but preparation for the Euros, as they were the host tournament. They don't play no qualifiers, and had some poor results, especially when you look at the loss to Japan 4-1, who he also lost to at the World Cup, and then getting so not the greatest job that he did at his last spot, but managing club and country is totally different. Club, you have your chance to day in, day out drill your philosophy into the team. When it comes to managing international teams, you don't have as much time to implement your system and philosophy, and sometimes there's managers that are just in generally better managers at their clubs rather than internationally. Is that the case for Hansi Flick? Probably, because he has shown to be successful at Bayern. And when you look at the managers that's been brought in Bayern after him, he has been the last successful manager at Bayern. It's inarguable that, with Nagelsmann failing to go any farther than a quarterfinal in the Champions League, really struggling in Bundesliga last season before Tuchel took over, who ended up bringing that Bayern team back to the title after Dortmund bottled it that last day. I don't know if bottling is a strong word to use, but in my opinion, it was the bottle the last 2 days, actually, last two games. I think this is a good move for both. I think Hansi Flick has an opportunity to resurrect his manager career, to get back on the market of top clubs, being at a top club, because the players at Bayern is wonderful. I think Hansi Flick will love the opportunity to work with a guy like Harry Kane, with the ability he has to score, not only score goals, but go into midfield and be able to create. I think the success Robert Lewandowski had under Hansi Flick can be replicated with Harry Kane. It's just I don't understand the lack of pull Bayern has now, having multiple managers that they went after and not being able to get them. And for me, I don't really understand why Hansi Flick wasn't the first manager that you look to. Oh, this is actually not even. There's two. Also, Xabi also ruled himself out, wanting to go with to stay at Leverkusen. You also heard some rumors about Erik ten Hag, but he also really ruled himself out of contention, and I forgot the point I was trying to make when I was talking about Ten Hag. But I don't know why Hansi Flick wasn't one of them. Not on first. Maybe first is too high, but one of the first few options. It seems like he was really down low on the list. It kind of seems like Tottenham's managerial search that one year that they got that they signed what was his name? The manager at Nottingham Forest right now. I'm blanking. If someone could help me out real quick. What was his name again? Espirito Santos. Nuno Espirito Santos. It kind of feels like that managerial search where Bayern, they just can't find any luck. So it seems like they're going back to something old, something trying to rewrite old history that never turns out well. But I don't think it's similar to that. I think Hansi Flick is a very, very good manager who kind of been let down by some of the players and some of the mentality of the German players. You know, if you do watch the German All or Nothing, you know, the way it seems like there was a disconnect between the team and him, especially when you look at guys like Joshua Kimmich and, you know, not really liking his role as playing a fullback, talking about, you know, in one clip he talks about not understanding the system of playing with the five or this or that. Just there was players questioning the tactics, players coming late to meetings and stuff. So I just think in general the German national team are in a shaky point. They've been in a shaky point ever since the 2016 Euros. Ever since then, it's been pretty god awful for Germany for their standards, and that's been before Hansi Flick. And it'll probably continue after him too, with Nagelsmann coming in. I know they had their good result in friendlies, but are they really going to do much damage at the Euros? Who knows? But I do think Hansi Flick is a good manager. They play fantastic football. High line, pressing, heavy metal football, getting numbers forward, moving the ball quickly. I love the way Hansi Flick's teams play football. They're not afraid to be aggressive. They're not afraid to have guys in the attacking half of the box, even when the other team has the ball, getting numbers up, pressing everybody, high intensity, winning the ball high, and then creating one ball that one ball that cut like a cutting edge ball to really get in goal. I love that they play football. I think that's how Bayern historically has played football, and I think bringing him into Bayern, he is a German coach. It is the best Germany team, and I think he can bring them back to winning Bundesligas and competing for Champions Leagues again. And as I said earlier, I don't know why he was not higher on the list. Higher on the list. I don't understand why he's higher on the list. But for me, if it is Hansi Flick or whoever it is, the main thing that they need to do, Bayern Munich, is first of all, defensively, they need to find a consistent center-back pairing. There's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of money spent on that back line at Bayern. There's been a tremendous amount of money spent on that back line of Bayern, but we don't seem closer to having a center-back partnership. Whoever is you're spending all this money on center-backs when you look at De Ligt, Upamecano, Kim Min-jae, Guerrero, all these players that you've come in money. Or let's not include Guerrero because we're talking about center-back partnership. You spend a lot of money on a center-back partnership, but you haven't had a consistent center-back partnership. You bring in a guy on loan, to be a squad player in Eric Dyer, and he comes in and he's your best performing center-back. It's shambolic the way that you spend all that money on a center-back, and you bring in a guy on loan that hasn't been playing at his old team, and he comes in and he's your main guy. It's a shame. It's a shame and it's a disaster. So they need to, defensively, they need to find a center-back partnership that work. Kim Min-jae had a good season at Napoli, but too many gaps and lapses in concentration this year. Too many just dumb mistakes against Real Madrid in that first leg. Just making two mistakes that cost 2 goals, and that ended up in the long term costing them that title. Upamecano, he's just clumsy, mistake waiting to happen. just never seems comfortable. You never seem comfortable watching him, but all his managers love him. He has quality when it comes to his just pure ability to defend. He's physically a force of nature. He's good on the ball, all that. But despite his talent, he also makes mistakes due to his positioning. Even though he is good on the ball, sometimes he's prone to losing it in a horrible situation, one-on-one defending, just completely getting done. And despite having extreme talent, there's just bad moments with him. It kind of reminds me of, Eric Garcia with a bit. Not as talented Eric Garcia, but Eric Garcia in certain moments he showed, shine, especially his ability to play like on the ball, all that. But in certain moments you just think this dude shouldn't even be in a top flight. Like just horrible. And that's kind of just not to that extreme, but that's kind of my sense on Upamecano. And then De Ligt, the injury concerns a little bit, hasn't really took the next level since his days at Ajax, and even at Juventus had injury concerns. Just hasn't really taken that next level. He is still a proper center back. He has the body, the size, the physicality, the defending. He is a leader. He is a very good leader. It's just he hasn't really taken that next level in my opinion, and he hasn't really came in and revolutionized the back line this way like other top center backs do entering the club. The impact a guy like Virgil van Dijk had going to Liverpool, that kind of impact, I don't really see it from Matthias de Ligt. So for me, whoever is the manager that comes in, whether it is Hansi Flick or whatever, looking like Hansi Flick right now, for them to really be successful at Bayern is defensively. They got to tighten up that team defensively, because attacking-wise, they still have talent, they still have class, but that back line, they need to find a consistent back line. And most importantly, whenever you want to set up a great back line, we need to have an amazing center-back partnership. And the direction Bayern Munich goes with that, the new manager will have to decide. But the amount of money that they've spent on center backs alone, and not having a center back partnership right now that they look at as world class, seeing a guy like Eric Dyer come in halfway through the season, and him coming in, a player who hasn't played at Tottenham, not even the best Tottenham side, he comes in and he's your most consistent defender, is just not good enough. So whoever comes in at Bayern needs to sort that out. We're going to take another short break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Jurgen Klopp's legacy at Liverpool, with his reign coming to end and him having his final game this upcoming weekend.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Hansi Flick and his potential return to Bayern. We now discuss Jurgen Klopp, his legacy at Liverpool. His managerial career at Liverpool is coming to an end. His final game will be this Sunday against Wolves at Anfield. The last time, Jurgen Klopp will be sitting on the touchline as a Liverpool manager, hearing "You'll Never Walk Alone." You saw him against Tottenham last week in the second to last game at Anfield, getting a little bit emotional, singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." There's going to absolutely be a tribute of some sort towards him, towards the career, towards the legacy that he created, towards the way he revolutionized the club, brought them back, brought them the first league title in 30 years. The emotional connection he created with the club. You know, for me, Jurgen Klopp is more than a manager. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm a Chelsea fan, but the legacy he created at Liverpool is just fabulous. The way he revolutionized that team, the way he came in with his philosophy: in this amount of time we'll do this, in this amount of time we'll win this. He said it in his initial press conference, saying in this amount of years we will the Premier League, and he came out and he did that. He won a Champions League for them, reached multiple Champions League finals, and the way he I keep forgetting the word, but the way he revamped this team. When he came in, he had players he didn't like. He got rid of a guy like Benteke, who actually was successful at Liverpool goal scoring wise. He got rid of him. He said, I'm not having that. He brought in a Sadio Mane, then brought in Mo Salah, then bringing in Alisson as a goalkeeper, as a stable goalkeeper, bringing in Virgil van Dijk to revolutionize that back line, develop the likes of Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, the same way Xabi is doing with Grimaldo and Jeremy Frimpong. Develop those guys, Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, to amazing playmakers that go in and generate so many assists, that are defensively, especially Andy Robertson, defensively very, very strong. Trent Alexander-Arnold not being strong defensively, but Jurgen Klopp did a good job just in general, longevity-wise, protecting him, protecting Trent Alexander-Arnold defensively despite his weaknesses. And then the way he got his players, Mo Salah, Firmino, Mane, pressing wise, the way that they bought in Salah, Mane, these are world class, top level players, and the way that they bought into their manager system of pressing, his motivation, being able to do that, and then them to be able to see the success, the results of that success, with the goals that they scored, with the games that they won, with the longevity of performance, winning one Premier League title, being 1 point away, goal differential away from winning another two, being two goalkeeper mistakes away from a potential second Champions League, and then reaching another two at the same time, reaching 3 Champions League finals, almost winning one. It's just what he's done. It's been fabulous. When you look at it, the trophy-wise, the trophy cabinet doesn't really represent the success that they had. They won a Premier League, a Champions League, a couple of EFL Cups, and an FA Cup. But they really didn't take the EFL and FA Cup serious while Jurgen Klopp was there earlier. They were more focused on the Premier League and stuff. But then as the years went on, realizing, okay, this Liverpool team should have a lot more trophies than they did, Jurgen Klopp started taking the EFL Cup and FA Cup more and more seriously, and they started to start getting success in them. They actually won all 3 of those finals against Chelsea, which is disappointing. But for me, the most remarkable thing that he did was the lack of budget. When you compare the budgets of a Manchester United, a Chelsea, a Manchester City that they were competing with year in, year out for that Premier League title, taking them to the last day, but doing it with a lot less money than them, and if they were to spend money, it was on the basis of selling guys like a Coutinho that they sold, a Benteke that they sold earlier on. They sold a lot of players, and their net spend was really the reason why they were able to bring in guys, not just some sheer amount of money the way Guardiola had at City. Jurgen Klopp, for me, is a fabulous, fabulous manager, and he created an emotional connection with Anfield, with the fist bump. He revolutionized, he revamped Anfield into the fortress that it was back then. There was a period where Anfield wasn't really as scary as it was back then, but it became that scary ground that teams feared going to again with Jurgen Klopp. It was a lot to do also with the style that they play. But going back to the emotional connection he shared with his Liverpool fans, the fist bumping, the celebrating, the camaraderie. You know, a legacy is not just what Jurgen Klopp gave to the people, but it was also what the people gave for Jurgen Klopp and put inside of him. And you saw that with the emotions in the Champions League final while he was singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" when the final whistle blew. You saw that with the emotions, him tearing up while "You Never Walk Alone" was playing against Tottenham a few weeks ago, knowing his time at Liverpool is coming to an end. If you break down the ridiculousness of Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, it is hands down, he is one of the greatest managers in the Premier League history, despite only winning one Premier League and one Champions League. There's been questions: is he a Liverpool great? I think that's a stupid question in my opinion, a very dumb question in my opinion. He is a great manager. For me, he's one of the greatest managers at Liverpool. For me, the greatest manager Liverpool has ever had that I've watched. Obviously, I didn't watch guys like Gerard Houllier or Rafa Benitez. I wasn't really there to watch that happen. But apart from that, Pep Guardiola, he's came out. He's one of the best managers in the world. Played in many different leagues against many different top coaches. He said his greatest rivalry is Jurgen Klopp. The respect that he has for Jurgen Klopp is unmatched. He knows Jurgen Klopp. He understands it too. I know in his mind sometimes he might compare the amount of spending he's done to Jurgen Klopp and be like, wow, Jurgen Klopp is an elite manager. He has to. For me, he has to. And he recognizes the greatness there when he comes out and says, that is my greatest rival. That is my greatest rival. And it's important to understand this. Even that they only won one league title and one Champions League, the emotional connection he had with the Liverpool Football Club, with the fans, is something that should not be underestimated when you want to discuss the legacy of Jurgen Klopp. So for me, one of the greatest managers to do it in the Premier League history. And he's a fabulous manager. And I think Liverpool are going to be in very big trouble, starting next year with the new manager coming in my opinion. I don't know if there's a man like that. Arne Slot, the manager coming in, he has a huge situation. He has a huge situation and a very difficult task following a manager like Jurgen Klopp. We're going to take a short break, and then next segment we're going to discuss Jesse Marsch being appointed as the national team for Canada. Before the break, we discussed Jurgen Klopp, his legacy at Liverpool Football Club. But we have to discuss now Jesse Marsch being appointed as the manager for the Canadian national team. This is a managerial position that's been opened for a minute. The last manager was John Herdman, who left the Canada national team to take on Toronto FC a while back. I believe this came in August 28th 2023. It was around August 28th, 2023. This is a Canada national team that's been in turmoil, not with the national team itself, but the federation having financial issues, having a lot of, it's just been a humiliating time for them. Ever since the 2022 World Cup, there's been a huge problem federation-wise, and it's sprinkled. And for me, that decision from John Herdman came out August 28th, 2023. We're now sitting here May 14th, 2024, and now is when Canada national team wants to make that hire of a Jesse Marsch, who has been available for a long time. So that is a very questionable, for me, very, not questionable decision, but questionable timing. And, they open up the Copa America June 20th, and that's literally a month and 6 days for now that Jesse Marsch has to prepare with this Canada national team. He has 2 friendlies to prepare them with against teams like the Netherlands and France. But this Canada national team, federation-wise, they're not a properly run organization, and the fact that they waited this long to make the hire, and they make this hire a month before the Copa America, it's kind of setting up Jesse Marsch a little bit for failure. And I'm really surprised he was willing to take this proposition, because of the fact, he's kind of set up for failure only having a month with the team. Maybe he's thinking he could come in real quick, employ his system really quick, and he can get, he can make it work. But they open up the tournament against the reigning World Cup champions. The reigning World Cup champions, they open up the tournament. And then they also play Peru and Chile. They're the worst team in that group. Let's just be real. They are the worst team in that group. Peru is a team with quality, class. They play very good football. They have quality. Chile too, they have a few players here and there. They've been decent. The World Cup qualifiers, they've both shown some good signs in certain games. So I'm trying to find some positives. Now, when you look at Peru, this qualifiers, they have 2 draws and 4 losses. They're on the bottom, so they have not shown. Maybe I was thinking of probably Colombia. Actually, Peru has not been that great. Chile, they've been a little bit better, but there's still 2 teams, that generally do have quality in their team. Look, when it comes to Jesse Marsch, I love the football that he plays. His last managerial job has not been the greatest, what he did at Leeds. But again, when he went to Leeds, he came in kind of on a bad note, and taking over a team that was kind of battling to stay in the Premier League, which he was able to keep them up. But then he shortly got sacked afterwards, the following year after a bad start. But again, he plays similar football to like the German Austrian way of high press, Gegen football, pressing up high, winning the ball high, and then finding one ball with a cutting edge to play in, a striker or a winger, and then really benefiting off not really having a creative guy in midfield, but mostly relying on your ability to win the ball with your press in dangerous areas, then being able to have cutting edge and be clinical off that, and playing a very, very high line to close off the gaps between the pressing and the defending, to not have a huge gap in between. So the football, the system, all that is great, but to play that kind of football, you need time with your team to gel them together, to like Ralf Rangnick at Austria. When you look at it from an international point of view, he had time entering these Euros to really build his team, and they came in with good form. Jesse Marsch, he doesn't have that. So I don't see much success for Canada Copa America. Maybe they're looking at this for this is a 2020 cycle hire, and they just wanted to bring him in now so he could start getting familiar with the team and use the Copa America as the first experience. But if you're making this hire to help you win this Copa America, I don't understand it at all. I do think Jesse Marsch is a good coach. I think he is a better coach than Greg Berhalter. He's had more success than Berhalter because, look, Berhalter hasn't really had the game that they shouldn't have won. You know, he hasn't really, at Columbus Crew, he had success, but they didn't go and win the MLS Cup. In fact, they won the MLS title after he left. And at the U.S. men's national team, they've never won a game that they shouldn't have won. Every game that they won, they win against a better team. When they go to the World Cup, the first team that they shouldn't be in the Netherlands, they end up losing to. Jesse Marsch, though, he's shown that he can elevate what he did at Leipzig. You know, he didn't beat Liverpool, but the way that they played at Anfield, the electricness, the high pressing, all that, he's shown that he can take a team with less talent, you know, and make them better than the sum of their parts. You don't see that with Jesse Marsch. So I do think he is a better manager, and I think it's kind of a missed opportunity for the U.S. men's national team because they want to enter the 2026 World Cup with the best possible chance, and I don't think Greg Berhalter give you that. But for Canada, for me, I don't understand bringing him so late. Why wait this long? Why wait this 6 months period? Jesse Marsch has been available for a very, very long time. If this is the guy that you wanted, what took you so long to come with this decision? It's kind of like the U.S. men's national team. Whenever they fired Jurgen Klinsmann, brought in Bruce Arena, didn't make the World Cup, and then there was just this long period of having an interim manager. What's the point in that? You need to find the guy there's no rush, obviously, in that moment, but you need to find him relatively soon. For Canada, there was kind of a rush if they want to compete in this Copa America. But for me, I don't think they do. But the thing is, too, also, they lose any sort of benefit of doubt when you look at the way that they've been run, which I'm not going to go in depth with the football politics of how the Canada national team federation has been ran, because that's going to be a whole different concept and a concept that I need to get a little bit more research on in general. But that's a whole wider theme that you could do a whole GSMC podcast on, just the dysfunctionalities of the Canada men's national team federation. But yeah, like, why wait this long to make the hire? For me, that's what I'm thinking about the most. You know, like, he's coming in and he has to announce his squad within the next couple of days, essentially. Jesse Marsch did say during the announcement, this team is going to be something that the entire Canadian community is going to be so excited about and ready to support. We're going to play with power and inspiration. We're going to go for it. I can't wait to get started. As I said earlier, he's going to lead the Canada at this Copa America. They're going to play against Argentina, Peru, and Chile, but they also have friendly games against Netherlands on June 6th and France on June 9th in Europe to prepare for it. Why go to Europe to play international friendlies when you have to come back and play in the States for the Copa America? That's a whole different conversation there. But I'm interested to see how it goes, and I think this makes Canada a little bit more of not a factor at this Copa America, but a little bit more of a wild card. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to be able to do if they can play if they press up against Argentina and make it like cagey, potentially cause maybe an upset the way Saudi was able to against Argentina. And the way that they did that was pressing high, winning the ball up the field, and and then playing a high line and drawing Argentina offsides like 4 or 5 times in that first half. Canada, they will be playing sort of a similar football, but can Jesse Marsch come in and implement his system that quickly? That's what I'd like to see. But we do have to conclude the show. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.